Guys, I need to be honest with you. I've taken a break from making content and social media in general over the last couple of weeks, mostly because I'm just suffering from burnout. 2 years ago, I started this channel and I made a conscious effort to make as much content as possible and to reply to every DM and every comment and every email. The reality is I just can't do that anymore, but it's been really getting me down and the guilt of it. And I've been playing the wrong game. I've been playing the game of trying to get more numbers as opposed to trying to bring the most amount of value. So if this video resonates with you about your band or your social media and you're feeling a bit burnt out, then I've got some advice. When I was 15 years old, I fell in love with a ninja. It was a bass guitar I got for my birthday. It wasn't that I enjoyed playing it, it was an obsession. Every day I would count down the hours at school to get home so I could get my hands on that guitar. Music was like a club I was in. It was how I made friends and how I felt accepted. And looking back, I feel so privileged to have had a life of being paid to play music for a living. I've never been snobby about my bass playing or my music career. My overarching philosophy was always, I'm not going back to the shampoo factory. So I played anywhere and everywhere. Money wasn't the driving force. It was just a way that I could live. It was like oxygen or food. I needed it to get by. As a musician, my job is not to play notes. My job is to provide the passion and the energy and the support to other musicians around me. I learned early that the best way of getting the most amount of work is to take responsibility, to help people and make their lives as easy as possible. I've never struggled for gigs, probably because I'm willing to go the extra mile. I understand how to cut through the noise of the thousands and millions of other musicians. It's not about having a reason to get work. It's about having no reason at all why you wouldn't. And getting gigs becomes addictive. And the more well known you are, the easier it is to get gigs and become more in demand. After many years of playing 3 or 4 times a week with whoever would have me, something went wrong. I was on tour in Germany and I remember arriving and the other guys in the band wanted to go out and check the city, and all I wanted to do was sit in my room and watch German television. But the tour went well and a few days later I returned to the UK and started on the gigging schedule again. And I remember clearly standing on the stage of a venue and the drummer clicked in. We started playing the song and I had this overwhelming feeling to put the guitar down and just walk off. I just didn't want to be there. It was the first time in my life that I'd ever felt like that. I remember the venue, I even remember the song that we were playing at that specific moment. I needed a break. So that's what I did. I took a week off. I depped out a few gigs and I took a week off of playing. And I didn't touch my guitar for an entire week. A week later, I was back on the gigs again and the feeling hadn't gone away. I still just didn't want to play. I needed a break, which is exactly what I did. I took a week off, I depped out the gigs that I had to some friends of mine, and I didn't touch the bass for a week. That was the longest time that I'd gone without playing in my entire life. A week later, I was back on the gigs. I remember getting in my car and driving to the gig, and for some reason I had this weird dread. The feeling hadn't gone away and I didn't really want to go and play. Something was badly wrong. I remember getting through the gig, getting in my car and going home. When I got home, I put my guitar in the corner and I didn't pick up my guitar again for 2 years. I sold all of my gear a few months later. I sold my amps, I had no pedals, I sold my guitars. I just had my one main guitar, one lonely P bass, sat in the corner of a room. 2 years later, I got a call from my brother, who also was a bass player and was sick and needed me to stand in on a gig for him. Begrudgingly, after a guilt trip, I said yes. And I went and borrowed a bunch of gear to get me through the gig. I remember driving to the gig, learning the songs in the car on the way, and having this real fear that I was going to let the other musicians down because I hadn't played in 2 years and I felt like I was really out of the rat race. I got to the gig, set up, sound checked, and by the end of the first song, I realized I had the biggest smile on my face, like I just found something again. It was just so exciting to be on stage with a guitar in my hand about to do another gig after 2 years. I finished the gig and straight away I phoned up my brother and I was like, this is awesome. I need more gigs. And so he started passing me some gigs, and it wasn't long before I had a full diary all over again. So what went wrong? I'd lost my passion for bass playing because I'd lost sight of the most important thing, the fun and the creativity. I wasn't pushing myself. I wasn't learning. Everything had become like a Groundhog Day. I was focused on the wrong parts. I was focused on the endless traveling and the waiting around and playing the same songs night after night after night. I'd lost my passion and I'd lost my focus. So does any of this sound familiar to you? Have you guys been feeling the pressure of all of the things you are trying to achieve, and it feels you are just wading through mud trying to achieve things in a world full of noise? As a musician, our careers are 50 years long. And we are going to have a lot of waiting around. We are going to have a lot of traveling and a lot of being away from home. A lot of Groundhog Day. So how can you avoid burnout? So for me, there are some key ways to avoiding burnout. But firstly, appreciation is so important. Understanding that being a musician as your chosen career and making money with an instrument in your hand is a privileged life. And whilst we do have the ups and the downs, and trust me, there will be many, many downs and there'll be many Groundhog Days, never lose sight that this is a privileged life. Number 2, creativity. What are you doing to scratch that creative itch? What is your self-indulgent jazz fusion project, which is just solely for you and your creative musical endeavors? These are really important to stop you playing the same songs day in, day out, and not using and utilizing your creativeness. Because let's face it, that's what we are. We are creatives, and therefore we need to create. And if we're not, we're just painting by numbers. We're just playing other people's art, which can get very boring. Number 3, and probably in my opinion, the most important to avoiding burnout. Are you still learning? Are you still developing? When we start playing and we go to college, we are immersed in new music, new styles, new techniques. We are on a quest to better ourselves and become as good as we can be. But then we graduate and we start getting professional work, and that tends to stop. All of a sudden we don't have a teacher, we don't have a mentor, and we don't have that time to practice. Now is the time to keep that practice going and to keep developing, because you learning provides that passion, because implementing what you have learned keeps your playing and your gigging exciting. And number 4, take some breaks. Work can become an obsession and it becomes very difficult to say no to work. But if we don't look up and refresh and reward ourselves, then it becomes very easy to burn out. You have a duty of care to look after your passion, because when that flame goes out, this privileged life looks more like a prison sentence. As musicians, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, and it does get results, but not at the expense of our passion. Look after your career, and your career will look after you.